Okay, guys, our next speaker is Dana Thomas, and I think I need a doctorate to read your credentials. I'm going to take a breath here and do this, hopefully, quick. Dana is a professor, extension agricultural engineering specialist in agricultural water management, and extension program leader in the development of biological and agricultural engineering at Texas A&M Agrilife Research and Extension Service in Lubbock. Dana earned her bachelor's and master's degrees in agricultural engineering at Texas A&M University and her PhD in agriculture and biological engineering at Mississippi State University. Dana's integrated applied research and extension program emphasizes irrigation technologies and best management practices for efficient irrigation management in water-limited agricultural production systems. Welcome, Dana.
Yes, I do have the slide changer. All right, thank you, Kelly. He didn't say, I went to high school with his sister, and our dads went to school together, so they graduated together, so we're practically cousins, Kelly. Thank you. It really is a privilege to be with y'all today. I appreciate the invitation, and it's great to see students from Clarendon College here. Thanks for coming, y'all. Really do appreciate it. I was asked to talk about more with less, basically agricultural water conservation strategies, and really I do that in the context of the regional water planning and the water conservation strategy discussions related to that. Not surprising to this audience, agriculture and specifically agricultural irrigation comprises over 90% of the water use, the groundwater withdrawals in this region. So I think it's a pretty big deal. This graph, I don't expect you to be able to read the legends, but basically Kevin Wagner had put together some the water use projections, the 2010 and 2060 values. This was a 2012 publication looking at the water uses by region and by user group. The blue line, what you really need to see is the blue line is agricultural irrigation. Livestock production is the yellow that you can't even see. And municipalities, you can see, is a bigger deal in the Dallas-Fort Worth area than it is here. So we think agricultural irrigation is pretty important, don't we, Kernstettler? Yes, we do. Okay. Some reason, looking at some of the, a summary, a survey results of why, I guess, we're looking at barriers to adoption of water conservation technologies and strategies. Some of these are listed here. Some of the producers may have responded to more than one. All of these, the biggest number is about 30%, but investment, for some of them, investment and improvement is not a priority. Some, they worry about risk of reduction in yields or poorer quality crops. They may have physical or crop conditions that limit, maybe the field shape isn't conducive, or maybe the water availability may not be. They're not expected the water availability to hold that long enough to pay for the improvement. Some of them, the landowner may not want to invest, and so on. So there's a lot of uncertainty that affects their reluctance to adopt some of the strategies. But a lot of these, you might notice, are related to finances, investments, capital investment, and management time that's required. So I just kind of put together a series of these slides. I actually put these together for another regional planning group a while ago, and I keep adapting it over time. But I'll look at, in the regional water plans, there are water conservation strategies and agricultural water conservation strategies to help meet those unmet needs that you saw presented earlier. And so I looked at some of the factors that affect the adoption and the factors that affect effectiveness of these practices and technologies. And so I kind of got them listed here, and I'll walk through them. A big one we noticed from the survey of producers is economic considerations, the costs and benefits of the improvements. Is the water saved, the pumping savings, the increased yield, and so on, are those going to help pay for that investment? Or are there financial incentives, such as USDA NRCS EQIP cost share, low interest loan programs? Some of the water conservation districts administer these. Other financial incentives that you might come across. We also look at increased profitability. Again, going back to lowered input costs, possibly higher profitability through higher, better yields in some cases, a better quality. So we look at economics is a big deal. Climate and crop considerations. One of the strategies listed in several of the regional water plans is adopting more water efficient or water, I guess, less thirsty crops, right? Lower water consuming crops. Well, sometimes there's some consideration there. Is that crop well suited to the climate or the soils or the soil chemistry or the infrastructure in the area? Temperature and heat. So are we going to run short of crop season for some crops? Drought tolerance, and I can address that a little bit more later. Salinity and salinity tolerance. Sometimes water quality and soil quality may be limiting factors to whether I can adopt some crops. And of course, integrated pest management considerations. If I have to look at the chemicals that I have to use, weed control, other pest control, and so on. So there are a lot of factors that are technical science, location specific. Effectiveness of the strategies. Will the strategies work? Where do they work? Will they work for my operation specifically, given my soils, my crops, my constraints, other constraints, labor constraints, management constraints, and so on? How much energy and water will they actually save? And that can vary too. And we keep in mind that some of the heavily marketed technologies and practices may not they may not live up to the hype, okay? So we have to ask those questions and look for objective answers for that. Some technology considerations. This is my wheelhouse. Power and electricity available. Okay, is that technology, if I need three-phase power, do I have three-phase power? Or do I have to provide some extra equipment to be able to adapt that, for instance? So do I have the power? Internet connectivity. For some of the technologies that my research group is working on, we need internet connectivity for some of those applications. And some of the tools that we're developing, we're having to develop plan B. What if we don't have the internet? So we need to be able to hardwire it in. Crop rotations. Again, lots of considerations there with respect to pest management and other considerations. The water availability on demand. Do I have ready access? Do I turn on the pump and have water, or am I in an irrigation district where I have to wait till next Wednesday to get water? That makes a big difference in my management plan. And of course, other infrastructure considerations. I look at policy considerations. Crop insurance is a big one. Before, when I was an absentee landowner and the tenant would want to make a change, my next call was to the crop insurance guy. Will we be covered if we do this? Because that was a big deal to us. Water regulations, pumping limits, those kinds of things. Those can really impact what crops and what strategies are available to me. And finally, operation-specific considerations, and there are a lot of them. A lot of times I will get landowners call me or producers call me, and they're asking questions. Should I adopt X technology? And I'll just start asking them a lot of questions. What's your water capacity? What's your soil? What's your field layout? What are your current limitations? Do you have the labor? Is it a labor issue? Is it a management issue? Some of the technologies are lower manual labor. I grew up moving gated pipe. Thank you very much. But I can trade off that for higher management considerations. I have a friend who is an absentee landowner. He has land in southern New Mexico. He has top-of-the-line, state-of-the-art, subsurface drip irrigation, automated everything, and he had to turn it back to a valve control, manual control, because his irrigator couldn't figure out the programming of the controller, right? So these are very realistic and very operation-specific considerations. Infrastructure and equipment, for instance, and access to inputs and markets, even access to technical support. A lot of times, especially with some of the newer technologies, I want to try something. It really helps me if I can pick up the phone and ask for help, if I've got a good dealer that's going to be there when I have a question. Some of the failed technologies that I've seen in recent years failed because when the growers picked up the phone, the only guy who could answer the question was in Nebraska, and after X many calls today, he just gave up and quit answering the phone. Well, that's not a good business model. Okay, so we have to work around some of those things. So let's step through some practical things, and I know I've got lots of good friends in here and others who know me well who will correct me, so I count on you. CE, I count on you to correct me. Janet, we went to high school together. It's kind of scary for me to be here. Okay, Agriculturals in the High Plains, Texas High Plains in particular, they've really jumped on and adopted the efficient irrigation technologies and strategies, including low-pressure center pivot irrigation. Specifically, low-elevation spray application is the big main user now. They really have adopted that. Low-energy precision application was kind of the precursor to that. We've got some producers using that. Mid-elevation spray application, low-pressure in-canopy, and precision application residue management. Thank you, NRCS, for all those acronyms. And I remembered what they stood for. I'm going to count myself as a success today. Okay, micro-irrigation and subsurface drip irrigation. One of the biggest concentrations of subsurface irrigation anywhere is in about a 9-county area around Lubbock. Several factors go into that. One, we're limited water, our capacities were dropping. Subsurface drip irrigation is a really good fit for cotton production and the growing viticulture, wine grape industry. So we've got producers who water limited factors. They're highly motivated to adopt the technology. We have great applied research programs. I can't take credit. We've got really great programs in the area that are doing the research to make sure these systems fit the production in the area. That's really cool. We've got some really cool technologies. Now the next step to get more crop for our drop, if you want to say it that way, is improved management. We can still improve the management, okay? We can do a better job with our subsurface drip irrigation. We can do a better job with our low-pressure center pivot irrigation management. Data-driven irrigation scheduling tools are one of the big ones. A lot of products available, anything from evapotranspiration estimates to soil water management monitoring. We've got a lot of cool tools available. Again, I said locally relevant applied research programs have been very instrumental in developing systems and recommendations that work for the fields, for the farms, for the soils, for the crops, and the growers in this area. So that's been a credit to those guys. And tremendous credit goes to the collaborations among university, research, extension programs, industry. We've got some really great irrigation industry equipment dealers and companies and representatives. The groundwater conservation districts have been tremendously supportive in promoting and even research and development in these technologies and recommendations. USDA Agricultural Research Service, y'all have a gem here at Bushland, just west of town. There is some tremendously wonderful work going on out there. USDA NRCS, including the EQIP cost share programs and some technology advice. And so all of these can help identify the issues. Again, credit to the farmers who are adopting it and the landowners who are willing to invest also. All of these working together, identifying the issues, addressing the issues, facilitating and coordinating the technology transfer to get the information out, answer the questions. So I really appreciate that. Some new technologies that are available, you see them advertised everywhere now. There's all kinds of neat technology, irrigation tools. I can pick up my cell phone, I can monitor my center pivot, see where it is, see which pivots are running, which ones are stopped, how much water has been applied, gallons per minute pressurized, all that neat stuff. Some of them, if I want to pay a little more, I can start and stop and control it from my phone. I don't have to send me out there in my mud boots to go turn off the pump. Okay, that's nice. We have internet visualization and dashboards. Now, a lot of this, what I'm saying here is we've got some tools out there. We've got data coming in. We've got weather coming in. But it really helps if I have model system software to tie the information together so that it's presented in a dashboard that I can look at and interpret it and make a decision off of it. I don't have to try to push all the pieces together. I'm starting to integrate all these things. The integration of the information is being done in the background, so I can just look at the numbers and make a decision. Variable rate irrigation, programmable controllers, sensor-based controllers, they're really coming along. There are a lot of tools that you can purchase right now. And then, again, that remote sensing, remote control monitoring and all that. It's really good depending on how much you want to pay, how much you want to trust it. We've come a long way from me having to go out and turn on the pump on the tailwater pit. Regardless of the tools you choose, and I could go on and on all day, I'll stop because I only have 30 minutes, but managing and maintain the irrigation system, regardless of the tools that you select, managing and maintaining that system are very important. If I clog up my system and I'm trying to pressure, I'm having to do all kinds of gyrations to try to get the thing working again, I'm not getting good results out of it. Applying all that knowledge and all those data, I've got a lot of good information on soil-water relationships, crop water use, production guides, integrating all that information to make decisions, making the best use of all that information that's available, and then managing the crop water in context of the whole the crop management system. Okay, picking the better genetics, picking the better, the integrated pest management plan, all those things enter in, not just the water. And when I look at individual strategies to save water, I'm going to look at the Region A water conservation regional plan, okay? Region A, the agricultural water conservation strategies are listing here. I'm going to step through these really quickly, from irrigation scheduling all the way to changes in crop variety, and I'll just step through real quickly. And so strategies to save water, how may they help? Irrigation scheduling, I've been kind of harping on this. I've devoted a lot of my career to this. But basically knowing how much water the crop needs, how much water the soil will hold. This is information that I can apply. The biggest opportunity for water conservation here is where irrigation initiation early in the field, how much do I pre-water? How early do I start? And then irrigation termination at the end. And when it rains, can I turn off the pumps or not? And if I trust my tools, then I can make a better informed decision and turn off the pump with a calculated risk. I don't want to cause undue losses, right? So I get the confidence in the numbers as I use these tools. Irrigation equipment changes. The producers in this area, we're already over, 85% adoption of center pivot irrigation systems, low pressure center pivot systems here. They're already using them. The producers are already using them. Subsurface drip has really made gains. If you take High Plains wide, you're talking 10% approximately. So we've got really high level of adoption of these tools already, reducing the evaporation, reducing runoff losses, managing it better. Again, really that's the main the opportunity for improvement there is improved management, incremental improvements in management. Soil management, we talked about carbon credits, but there are a lot of practices, soil health, conservation tillage, furrow diking, other practices to reduce runoff, to make sure that we don't lose water out the bottom unless we need to leach salts. The benefits of a lot of these practices are well documented. However, there are still some unrealistic claims out there. You hear some wild things. I've heard as much as, in a season we got 14 inches of extra water. I'm like, where in the heck did you get that? Because that soil will not hold that. So, the laws of physics still do apply. Y'all study your soil science, it's useful. Okay, but research is ongoing, so we can get better information, better data, and answer those questions. Advances in plant breeding and changes in crop variety. Thanks to the groundwater districts who have also supported this research, the commodity groups who are supporting this research, we're getting some really good crop-tolerant crops in corn, cotton, and other crops. This is really cool, but drought-tolerant varieties don't necessarily demand less water, but they can survive those drought periods a little better and still produce. Or we have a shorter season crop, and what we're doing is basically the peak irrigation and the peak water demand might still be just as high, but I can shorten the season so I can chop off an irrigation or two and save a couple of inches of water on either end. Or I have the opportunity to plant a little later so I can move the highest peak water demand of the crop later in the season so I'm not, so I just don't have quite as high of demand. So I can manage it. There's some flexibility that's afforded by those genetics. Conversion to dry land or rain-fed farming, this one's kind of risky. Some people have no choice, but we do realize that there's a big risk management advantage to irrigation, even if it's only for supplemental irrigation. I've heard researchers from other parts of the country say, well, I'll just go dry land, you'll be fine. Really? Do you want to take a paycheck just once every 5 years? Because some of us kind of count on, I don't know, I'm kind of spoiled to eating every day and sleeping inside. Changes in crop type. Now we see this in some intensification. You see this with the wine grapes in the South Plains and other areas, or some other niche crops where I have limited water now, so I'm going to focus that water on a higher value crop. So we've got those opportunities as well. I really do want to take just a second here to acknowledge that funding support has come from High Plains Underground Water Conservation District, Texas A&M University Water Seed Grant Program, and the USDA Ogallala Aquifer Program. We really do appreciate the support. And I don't do this work alone. I've got some really great collaborators at USDA Bushland, Thomas Marek, Gary Marek, Electrical and Computer Engineering, Jiang Hu. Yes, my mama said don't play with electricity and water, but you know what? It's way more fun when you can play with electricity and water in a safe way. My email's here. Please feel free to catch me. I'm going to stick around for just a little bit before I head back to Lubbock, but it sure has been a pleasure being with y'all today. Thank you so much.